So welcome again, everybody, to the second day of the Games for Change Festival and our Meet the Funder track. We'll be joined shortly by Dr. Diane Hickey from the National Science Foundation. And today it's sort of turning out to be a little bit of having a sort of a concentration on some of the government agencies that play an integral role in supporting the work of our community. And so earlier today we had Ed Metz from the Department of Education. Here is Dr. Diane Hickey joining us. Hello.
Hello.
And I was just saying that you know, again, this today, as it turns out, has a number of presentations from different government agencies that are really integral to supporting the work that this community does, and we learn about some of that important work. Just some quick housekeeping. So, and again, by the way, I'm Kevin Duggan. I'm the Director of Development here at Games for Change. And this session, it's a half hour, so it's very brief. And we usually like to start with a short presentation and then leave plenty of room for questions and answers. And I would ask you to post your questions to the chat field, but I would encourage you to wait until after Dr. Hickey's presentation in case she addresses some of your questions in advance. And we've now lost her. There she is. She's back and better than ever.
And better than ever, and ready to share some screens.
Okay. So
Kevin?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, you'll let me know when we'll start, but I can just
we are starting. And,
all right.
Hang on one second, and I will. Whoops. Let me read a brief introduction. Hold on one second. So, Dr. Diane Hickey is a program director in the National Science Foundation's Small Business Innovation Research Program, SBIR for short. She oversees proposals on the topics of human-computer interaction, augmented and virtual reality, and learning and cognition technologies. She has extensive experience in multiple technical fields and early-stage deep technology ventures. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Diane. And take it away.
All right, thanks, Kevin. I really appreciate that. This first slide is normally just a slide we leave up to talk about. It summarizes the entire program. We consider ourselves America's seed fund. We invest up to $2 million in seed funding, take zero equity, which is probably the most attractive portion of any of the SBIR programs. Since 2012, we've made nearly 3,400 awards. And then since 2015, an external entity measured our impact, and we've had 153 exits that have received a little bit over $9 billion, and that's across the portfolio. Now, that's pretty much what I just said, but the important part here is we invest in groundbreaking, high impact and high risk technology. I'll talk a little bit about that, but that is really where we differ from almost any other agency that does an SBIR. We are not mission driven, and what that means is basically our mission is increasing the competitiveness of the United States in the science and engineering, which is pretty much everything. For me personally, I am the project manager, as Kevin said, or the program director of the augmented and virtual reality topics, human-computer interaction topics, and learning and cognition technologies. If you've looked at the National Science Foundation before, these are 3 brand new topic areas that were introduced this year. In pretty much when I came on in August. Sorry about that. So we are constantly adjusting our topic areas, not to decline any topics or proposals from consideration, but to say this is where we feel that America really need some innovation. And if you've got something, this is what we're highlighting, please feel free to send in your proposal. I'm going to talk a little bit about the process in just a minute, but we award about $200 million per year in R&D funding. So per company, that can be up to $2 million. This is pretty much where our funding goes. This is from 2020, so these 3 topics weren't in there as their own thing. We were under, pretty much all of them were under information technologies, though some fall under materials and robotics and IoT. More than half of all of our phase 1 proposals were from first-time applicants. So they've never submitted to the NSF before. 95% of all the awards in 2020 were awarded to startups with less than 10 employees. So we really are talking startups, new companies, innovation ideas. This is seed funding for funding that you won't get anywhere else because it's so risky and so new. 81% of the phase 1 awards went to startups established in the last 5 years. Again, speaking to that investment in new startups, new innovations, really cutting edge. If you think you're too small or you just have this plan, we're really looking to grow that entrepreneurial, technical, scientific cadre of innovators in this country. Kind of covered the 3,400, this covered on the first slide. Now, how does it work? We do a phase 1. So this is really not how it works, but these are the funding phases of how much you can get. The first phase 1 is 6 to 12 months, $256,000. And that percentage of, and this is going to come up, and it's very competitive, very competitive. Phase 2 is only allowed for the phase 1 companies, and that's up to $1 million. And then phase 2B is up to another $500,000. There are many, many other supplements as well, but that's really into the details. So you get started with a project pitch. Most entrepreneurs are familiar with the project pitch. Ours is not in front of an audience of 100 investors. Ours is actually online. You fill it out very quickly. If you know your project very well, you could probably do it within an hour. It asks the exact same questions, but in a shorter form that we'll want to see with a proposal. We'll ask about the technical innovation. We'll ask about the technical objectives and challenges, the market opportunity, and the company and team. And you're going to submit it to see if your project is a good fit. We're going to ask you to submit 1 project pitch at a time. And the processing time is approximately 1 month. This past year has been quite a challenge for our office. We normally process about 3,000 proposals per year with a staff of less than 10 last year. Then we had the COVID call, which added another, we expect another couple hundred. It actually ended another 1,400 to our workload. So we've been a little bit catching up since that point in time. When we say high risk, high reward for the nation, that's a big question. Does my innovation fit? So we want to see transformational innovation, an R&D project that's needed to demonstrate this potential before other people will invest in it. We want to see it based on fundamental science or engineering research, evidence-based research. Something that's unproven in the marketplace. So you shouldn't be bringing together things that exist for a new idea or a new concept. It really is that there's some fundamental science that has not yet been brought to the public that could really benefit the public. And that really makes a big difference in the cognition technologies, gaming technologies. Again, this is a project for a business. It must solve a problem or meet a need of a specific customer that will pay money for it one day. And we're looking for things that can scale. We want to create a commercial viable business that impacts America as a whole. Now, that doesn't mean like in 2 years, you're going to be $1 billion and have 2,000 people working for you. It just means that we have to see that you're commercially viable. We want to give you money for phase 1. We want to give you money for phase 2. We never want to see you again. Which doesn't mean that you don't get money. We just want to see you be successful as quickly as possible because our nation needs it. So after your project pitch, if it's a good fit, you'll be invited to submit a full proposal. Now, sometimes there's a little bit of back and forth on that project pitch, asking you to, a lot of times, describe in more detail the technology innovation. For example, almost everything that comes in under an education-related topic will have machine learning, AI, or natural language processing, NLP. Now, what we're trying to tease out is your innovation in one of those areas, or are you using one of those technologies to advance your innovation that is hard to kind of parse out to the public? If it's not a good fit, you'll get immediate feedback, but you do have to go back to the drawing board, and you're welcome to submit another public project pitch in the next submission window. We have one every 3 months. The topics I'm in charge of are augmented and virtual reality, and here are some of the subtopics. I'm just going to run through these quickly. I'll be happy to go in more detail. 3 of the companies that we highlight that are funded in this VR topic are Bad VR, which is step inside your data, so not quite a game. Parallel reality, which is a very interesting concept that has many, many markets that it could be applicable to. And then Neurotrainer, which is interesting. Neurotrainer actually began as an education software, education play, but then they found a home and a business and a lot of success in serving the professional sports and NCAA sporting groups. So a gym for your mind, virtual reality brain training for athletes, which is just really amazing. And now they're looking actually to benefit some educational plays. But again, back to being a successful business first. Human-computer interaction kind of covers AR, VR, XR, or any other reality, but also has to do with things that you as a person can interact with. We have in here optometry, human vision, tactile technologies, technology age for disabilities. We were just listening to a talk about how gaming really does make a difference for those who are differently abled in the physical world. So a lot of things, even though there's overlap, can fall into here. And there are on our website, which is at seedfund.nsf.gov, a couple of examples of companies. We also have other topic areas where your innovation might fit, so you can look at all of those. The last one is learning and cognition technologies, which maybe most people watching this or had seen Ed Metz from the Department of Education, IES, earlier. We have a lot of similar things going on here. This covers digital learning, asynchronous and remote learning, workforce development, mental health support. The nice thing about this program is I'm not limited to formal education for the learning and cognition technologies. We just funded something that is for our most experienced citizens to help them keep cognitively alert and maybe help them go online and use new technologies to get a vaccine shot appointment, you know, things like that. But also for the 0 to 5 set. Head Start is actually one of the longest evidence-based success programs in the nation. And 0 to 5-year-old education is really phenomenal for getting a good start in life. If you'd like to see some of the people we fund who are out there on our seedfund.nsf.gov site, Phase 1 current awardees and Phase 2 current awardees, I've listed some here that might be some names familiar to you, have highlighted, and some not so familiar, some new ones like Dissect 360 LLC, which is doing a person from a cadaver lab is actually creating a video game to be competitive for her medical students or nursing students or students out in a rural area where they can compete about how well they can dissect and check out different things with different kinds of hearts that are in different areas of distress, things like that. And then moving on to the whole body. A couple of others. Myriad Sensors did Pocket Lab, you might be familiar with in the education space. And then recently, Prisms VR actually was out in the Oculus test lab area. And then Tablecraft, you might be familiar with the gaming in the VR area. Both of these are games. And then, Prisms was actually on the App Lab in March, which is really a big deal. That was with their prototype, and they were just a phase 1 awardee. So we're really looking for quality applicants. And also, if you are a commercial reviewer or know anybody who would be good reviewers, this would be fantastic. We review on the criteria of intellectual merit, broader impact, and commercial viability. And that actually in this space is pretty challenging to find. We need to find people who understand how to be successful in maybe the gaming space in a business environment, or what's needed in the education. The education space is chock full of educational games, and navigating your way through the good and the excellent is challenging. And then if you are creating something for that space, how are you going to be different? How can you show that there's a need? So if you know of someone who's just phenomenal, who understands this area and would like to serve their country by looking at reviews, looking at proposals and providing excellent feedback to the next generation of innovation scientists and engineers, we would love to have them. Please have them contact me at dhickey.nsf.gov. And now I have questions. And look, Kevin, I have 1 minute and 34 seconds left on my 15-minute talk. So I might have flown through that a little bit, but I'm sure that the questions, I'll be happy to go into more detail.
I think that was just right. And I do have a couple of questions to start with, and we'll wait and see if other folks do. And if you do have a question, please type it into the chat. So as we heard from Ed Metz earlier, Department of Education, his program only supports for-profit organizations. So NSF, what are the limitations there? Nonprofit, profit?
Only for-profit. This is a small business innovation research grant. So it must be a business that might not be established now, might not have any revenue now, but there is a commercial pathway to becoming a sustainable business. And this is something that I personally feel is really important. If you are delivering value, someone will be very happy to give you money in exchange for that value. Oftentimes we hear there's not a lot of money in education, but if there's a real problem in the marketplace, if a district, a school, a teacher, country has a real problem, there will be money to pay for a real solution. And that's really while nonprofits are amazing and serve very, very, very good causes and have an excellent role in our ecosystem, there is a benefit to knowing that no matter what the funding environment is, if your company or your idea is of value and people are exchanging money for it, you can be sustainable into the future no matter what happens with corporate tax law or pandemics or downturns in the economy.
So how typically would an applicant address that question of commercial viability or how they might succeed in the marketplace? You know, Ed had talked about letters from endorsers or supporters or knowledgeable people in the field. How about your program?
Yeah, that's a fantastic way. Definitely using the letters of support from someone saying that there is a need. So for letters of support, good ones would be, there is a need in the marketplace that's not fulfilled and we are looking for a solution. This could be something like, if you're working with disabled Americans or veterans or something, you might say there is a need to assist veterans who are suffering from high rates of suicide. This VR app connects people, does virtual whatever, mental health, something, and having a letter of support from the VA, someone at the VA who has the authority, now this is an even better letter, who has the authority to sign the purchase order to buy a trial of this product. Once you have it, that would be a fantastic letter showing that there is a need and that you are at least addressing that need. We're certainly not looking for Intel to say, or Microsoft to say, or Epic Games to say, once you build this, we will buy $1 billion of it. We know that that's not realistic, but something to show that there is really a market need and that you are in touch with the right people who can give you the feedback to develop the best product to meet that need. Is that helpful?
I think that's a really good answer. But is a business plan of some kind required as part of the application?
It is for phase one. It is part of that the 4 things about technology, and it's part of the team and also the market need. So a lot of times there'll be a top-down and a bottom-up analysis. Top-down being that in the nation there's this, a newspaper article has said there's this need and there's this much funding for that market. So that shows that there is a market there. And then also bottom up saying that most people pay 99 cents for an app on their phone. If we have an app that's endorsed by the Parent Teacher Association of America, every parent in America could buy it for 99 cents. And so we're not looking for you to know the exact right answer, but we are looking for you, as Ed said, to understand the market that you're trying to address, to understand the people you're trying to help, and to understand how to actually impact them in a positive way.
And just one last clarifying question, then we'll get to some of the questions in the chat. So you must go through the steps of phase 1, phase 2, and hopefully phase 2B. You have to start with that feasibility phase. But what if you're a startup that's sort of moved beyond that in some way? You still have to go through those steps. The
spirit of the award is a research grant. So the money is actually for research to develop a product so that it can be ready for commercialization. So sometimes you have something that's already working. But in order to move it from working for a classroom setting to working for a district size or the world, that scale, there is some research that needs to be done. So in that case, an established company with a working prototype or a working whatever can still apply, and that's actually quite good. The money cannot be used for, the SBIR money cannot be used for sales or marketing, or in our case, in our program, it can't be used for an incremental benefit to a product that's already existing. Did that answer your question?
I think so. So 2 of our questions seem to relate to the nationality of the project team, or I guess of the company itself. So clearly, as we heard from you, this is really designed to support American competitiveness in these areas and building the capacity of small businesses. So if the small business is incorporated or is an American entity, they could, I would imagine they could also have non-American citizens as part of the team. Is that correct?
So these are all pretty specific questions, but the clear parts, and it's in the solicitation on the website, the entity must be American, you're correct. The majority of the work, or all the work, must be done here in the States. And that's getting a little tricky now in post-COVID. So all of our rules and regulations for 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. Post-COVID, what does that mean? But the principal investigator does need to be an American citizen or a legal resident, those types of things. And also the entity itself, we will need to know who owns it. Are you majority owned by another government? That would be important to know. Are you majority owned by an investment company in the Bahamas? Also important to know. Are you majority owned by yourself because you've invested $5,000 and this is your passion and you have the experience to actually, you've seen the problem and you know this can work, you just need money to make it happen and you can help so many people? That's the kind of people we want. I mean, so, we'll take others.
Okay. So Paige asks, it sounds like she has a pending application to NSF, I guess, not clear if it's to the SBIR program or not, but she says it also fits well within the learning cognition technologies category. Is that allowed? Is she precluded from submitting it to NSF under that program? And I'll add on that. So my understanding is, so SBIR is spans different agencies, so cross-cutting different agencies, Department of Education, NSF, I think DOD, I think many of them. Could you, in theory, get funding from SBIR, get SBIR funding from multiple agencies for the same project?
Now, that's a great question. Not for the exact same project, so not double dipping. However, there is, it's one of the highlights for our program is our investment that you've never received government funding before. That applies to many, majority of our awardees, but many in the learning and cognition technology space, in fact, the ones I highlighted, do go, once they have their prototype from our feasibility or from their phase 2, they apply to ED's program in the Department of Education, which they look for a little bit, not as risky as we do. And many of them actually get follow-on funding from the Department of Education, and their application is slightly different. They require, particular curriculum, it has to be applicable to K-12, those types of things. Also, because we also do mental health, after our investment in the team, there might be more research that needs to be done. You can go to NIH. Environmental impacts, human-computer interaction, that could be even something like NOAA. If they're trying to do outreach to what it's like to be underwater, those types of things. It doesn't preclude you from getting other SBIR funding, but it does preclude you from getting it from the same exact project. Now, you can use the same exact project for both applications, but if you get awarded one, you'll have to give up the other. But I highly recommend that for the percentages that the awards are given, which is very small. In our case, less than 25%, almost down to 10% of all of the proposals into the NSF get awarded, so it's almost 90% decline. There's no reason why you shouldn't try to get your innovation funded in any way you can. And that's a lot of work to put in a proposal.
Right. And I think Paige clarified, so she has a pending proposal to the NSF, not for SBIR support, and is asking if she can apply now, I guess for the same project, to SBIR.
Yes, that would be fantastic. If she has an academic funding or is based on an academic innovation and then sees a pathway to bring it to the public via commercialization, that is a wonderful opportunity. And it is going to be different because the SBIR program is so different. It is that small business side of things versus the rest of the NSF being pure research based.
And for the folks who have been asking questions about being US based or US citizenship, my sense with SBIR is no. I mean, again, across all agencies, there's going to be that sort of fundamental requirement that it be a US startup with a US PI at the head of it. But there are, other federal agencies that do support, potentially could support that work, whether, I don't know if USAID or the State Department has been involved very much in game development projects. So I would encourage the foreign folks to explore those other government agencies. And
a neat way to establish anything that helps competition is going to help global competition, advance humanity. And if you can find sorry about that, parts of our COVID environment. If you can find a researcher here in the United States who is doing some excellent research on that and partner with you, that could be a very strong proposal.
Right. So, and I think we're just about out of time. Scott is asking a question. I'm not sure I fully understand. Projects that can you give a quick
yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's true. There are some big problems in the world. And if you can identify that one of those big problems is really hampered by this smaller problem, and that your technology addresses that smaller problem, you overcome it, for like getting touch screen on an LCD screen if you have something about that touch? Absolutely. It might be more, we're technology agnostic. So even though there's learning, cognition, and these others, it might fit under IoT or space or semiconductor. We actually will do some trading on the inside after we get these in to see where it best fits. And the only reason we're looking to put it into a topic area is so that we can get the best reviewers. We can get reviewers to actually know both the market and the technology out there and the needs. And so they can actually understand the innovation so that your proposal is reviewed by true experts in the field.
Okay, great. And I think that's a good place to stop. And I think as everyone took note that your email address is on your slide.
At nsf.gov, and I can put it in the chat as well.
Yeah, maybe if you could type it in the chat would be great. And thank you all for joining us. And I want to remind you that we have 2 more Meet the Funder sessions today, 4 tomorrow. Later this afternoon, we'll be hearing from folks from the NIH, another government agency, another perspective on government support for our community. So thanks so much for joining us. And Diane, thank you so much for taking the time today. All right, take care, everybody.
Bye.